to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, the professionals. I'm joined by Mitch, Heisman Trophy winner, 1989, by George, the one-eyed naval architect, and by Stu Penman, who is sitting outside of the Champions League positions tonight. Yes, a pretty miserable affair yesterday, Mitch. We all went for a win, mostly by a narrow margin, but I don't think any of us could have foreseen, Liverpool playing as well as they did, getting 2 goals in front, and then the catastrophe, which was Nick Pope sending off.
And if you wanted ahead of next weekend, the most Newcastle thing to happen, we've probably been given it on a plate, haven't we?
Yeah.
And yet, I was trying to look at comparisons about how I feel on the back of that. And the first one that sprung to mind was the result at home to Grimsby when we were in that run at the start of Keegan's second season.
Yeah.
And we went into that game, we'd just beat the Mackhams. We were on a high, and that really popped my balloon. And yet, for some reason, and I don't know whether it's because we haven't looked invincible over the last 6 weeks, we have looked out of form. Whether it's because we kind of knew we were in a bit of a little wobble, or whether it's because of the reaction after Pope went off from the team, and a few individuals in particular, that I actually don't feel as crestfallen as I thought I would in the cold light of day to day. Yeah, last night I was pissed off. Last night I was fuming when I got home and went to bed. I was pretty damn angry. But today, much more contemplative and actually trying to find the positives in something that is not necessarily as negative as we think. We got done by 2 great goals and we were sucker punched. And the Pope sending off, the only thing I'll say about it is we had a warning 5 minutes before. So did we call it wrong about playing a very high line? Pope's usually fantastic with his starting positions, and I think he got that one wrong. But I still don't think he had to handle it the way he did necessarily. But maybe he did that with one mind on, oh, hang on, if I follow through with a kick here and I take him down, I'm going to be sent off. And so he tried to do something clever, and in trying to do something clever, got himself sent off, which is tragic for him with regards to looking forward to next week. But I think there's things in there that could galvanise us as a team and galvanise us as a club. And I think will going forward. So I don't feel today as crestfallen as I did last night, for sure. Frustrated, yes, and disappointed. I feel annoyed that Liverpool, of all teams, have done the double over with this season because they haven't been brilliant. But yet, for 20 minutes yesterday, they were quite sensational.
Stu, was disappointing. And as Mitch has said, I mean, it was kamikaze, to say the least, by Nick Pope, and a little bit of misfortune as well in the fact that the ball bounced into his face, and then he clearly just forgot where he was, and goalkeeper's natural instinct is to use your hands and put his arms around the ball and hands around the ball, and that was that. I mean, I'm reading BT's comments there about is there an obvious goal scoring opportunity, and to decide that the referee looks at 4 different factors: attackers, distance to ball, direction of play, distance to goal, number of defenders. I mean, it's all academic, really. And Tom Dixon asking, do you think we'll appeal? I can't see how we can appeal that, I'm afraid.
Hey, I don't know if you can hear us because my Wi-Fi's cracking.
Yeah, we can hear you, mate.
You can, right? Great. Well, I mentioned last week that the ship was creaking, and how I felt last night is like the water had truly found its way on board. But again, in reflection today, it was probably our darkest day of the season. But the season's been full of sunshine, hasn't it? And next week at Wembley, with the arch they've got there now, it's a perfect opportunity for us to create our rainbow after such a downpouring yesterday, wasn't it? So with Nick Pope, as soon as it happened, I said red card, I put in the group, didn't I? So that's him out the final. I don't think it was a natural instinct. I think he knew what he was doing. He messed up. He went for a header, misjudged it, and then once he realised if he doesn't touch this ball, Salah's away, and he's grabbed it back, and then quickly, I shouldn't do this, but with the cameras and everything else, he was never going to get away with that, and it was just a rush of blood to the head. If you ever want to see what a rush of blood to the head is on a football pitch, that was it. And it's a shame for the lad. By all accounts, last night he was inconsolable, but also as a measure of our captain, Trippier, apparently he stayed with him all day or all evening, and just to make sure until he was okay again. And if we look back, I know Mitch mentioned there the Clive Mendonca goal for Grimsby, because that would have been our record, wasn't it? Consecutive wins, and last night would have been our record unbeaten. So it seems to me when we get to that thing, it's like the gods descend against us. But in a way, it could re-galvanise us, and you can't say it's injustice because after the first 5 minutes, for the next 15 minutes, Liverpool were worthy of the 2 goals and we were man down. And you start fearing the worst, don't you? You're thinking this could be 5, 6 or even higher. But the way the 10-man team re-galvanised themselves, I thought it was a credit to the players, to the supporters, to the coaching staff, to everyone involved. And it gives you that pride that we've always got, but it was nice to see. And even on beIN Sports, which I hate listening to when Jim Beglin, he's the most biased commentator in the world. But afterwards, even Gorilla Gloves was saying you wouldn't have thought if you'd tuned in at half time, for the second half, you wouldn't have known that one team had a man down. And that's ultimate credit to the players. And I think they'll take heart from that and they'll use it. And next week it could be do it for Broby. And I still believe we'll win this cup next week. I really do. And I think this could be where it's been coming for a while that we were going to get beat. And it's out the way now. You know what I mean? And now we come there with less expectation, less pressure on us, I suppose. It becomes more of a free hit, especially the form that Manchester United have shown in recent weeks. So I think we could go there and say, right, here we go. Nothing to lose. Let's get on it. And it might actually take the shackles off some of the players. But to a man yesterday, I thought they were brilliant. And I think I better mention, I thought Alan St. Maximin was outstanding yesterday. And he performed his role perfectly well. Him, Dan Burn and Joe Linton were the 3 standouts for me in a team of heroes yesterday.
What's your view then, George, on yesterday's performance and result?
Well, I mean, I don't know whether I'm struggling to see because of my bad eye or it's the remainder of the tears I shed after yesterday afternoon. Probably a combination of both. For me, the winning runs off that monkey's off our back. That's a start. But I've got to say, for a couple of weeks now, I've felt that other managers have worked us out. And Klopp did his homework yesterday, particularly in the first 10 minutes. Every opportunity they got to get over the top of where they did, and it resulted in two super goals. You can only say they were super goals because they were. And the outcome was inevitable. With Nick Pope, people talking about appeal. Appeal what? There's only one rule for the referee. Goalkeeper out the area, handball, send off, end of. What other rules are there, please? Tell us if there's any more rules, because there isn't. It's nothing to do with other defenders or anything else. The referee's only got one rule in that circumstances. That's goalkeeper's out of his area and he's handled the ball, so off he goes. I do think, like Stu, that he intended to try and head the ball, and it just didn't go for him. It took a bubble and hit him in the face rather than heading it. And then after that, his instinct was to stop another goal, because that's what would have happened if he'd just let it go. And he in that sense, he took one for the team. I've no doubt he's heartbroken, and rightly so, because he's been the focal point of this great surge that we've had. But it does worry me that other coaches have worked out and seem to know exactly how to get at us, Klopp was on it yesterday. Then the positives. Well, the positives are, if that 11 had played the way that 10 played in the second half, it wouldn't have been talking like this. We would have been, I'm sure, we would have been toasting the victory. I mean, if we took the chances, the 10 men who took the chances they had, and they had a bit of luck with the ones that hit the woodwork, Liverpool would have gone away even a sigh of relief that they'd got a point. That's how good we were. And again, I agree with Stu. ESM was up for it yesterday, and showed he was, and showed what he can be. It also showed to me that when the shackles were off in the second half and how let them have a bit of freedom as 10, doing more than just defend, ESM revelled in that. He became even better in my view, and with a little bit of luck on another day would have scored quite a good goal. So yeah, it's quite depressing and upsetting. Not depressing because that second half, there's so many positives in the way the courage came out, the bravery came out, the effort, and all the things we know and love about this squad of lads. And it shows it's still there. Now that's got to be a positive for next week, because next week, if they do that again with a lot more freedom, if they wish to, if they're allowed to, then I think we could get a positive result. And I hate telling you, lads, but I had a dream last night that we won on penalties, and Carriers saved the last two Manchester United penalties. How's about that for a dream? It might maybe just be that I had too much honey in my cocoa or something. I don't know, but I seriously, I kept seeing the Carabao Cup on its way to St James's Park. So there are some positives in yesterday. It was disappointing, but there were a lot of good things. People that have been saying Dan Burns not the left back and all the rest of it. Well, if you didn't like what he did yesterday, you never will, because he as Stu's already said, one of the outstanding players, and a man that 2 years ago I was criticising that he never broke a sweat, was just one of the best players on the field, Joe Linton. I mean, he really gave everything, and yes, we've been missing Bruno, but I don't think Bruno would have made that much difference yesterday. They really give it a go yesterday after the second half, and I think that's got to be positive for next week. So roll on next week, and I still think we might bring this trophy home.
Mitch, did he make a mistake starting Anderson? I've seen a couple of people in the chat mentioning the fact that maybe he should have started Gordon. Might have been a bit different, but I thought Anderson did okay.
Hindsight makes you a genius, and if he was going to start Gordon, it would have probably been in place of ESM. And frankly, I think ESM yesterday was sensational. Mm-hmm. And so, ifs and ands and pots and pans. If Nick Pope hadn't been sent off, you might as well start with that sentence. I don't think it was a mistake. Elliot Anderson needs to be shown by the management we trust him. We haven't let him go on loan in January. We've kept him in the squad. And so he needs to be shown that he's a trusted part of the squad. And I don't think there was any fault in starting him. I don't think he was at fault for anything that happened. The lad was only on the pitch, 17 minutes, 18 minutes? It's easy in the aftermath of all of this to be clever and say, with hindsight, we should have done this or we should have done that. I think we were outdone by a Liverpool team who knew where the weak spots were when we were pressing forward from the back and playing a high line. Don't think that's got anything to do with Eddie Anderson being in the team. And I feel for him because he's got this start against Liverpool and then he gets withdrawn because of circumstance. And now if you're going to then turn on, well, he shouldn't have been in the team in the first place, I don't think that's fair. I think we just take it on the chin, really. And I think I'd agree with my dad's thoughts on Carriers. There's a redemption arc in there as big as Darth Vader's, isn't there? It's one of these things where he could just the potential to make himself a pub quiz question for the next 25, 30 years. Which goalkeeper's first competitive start for Newcastle United was in the Carabao Cup final, and he saved 2 penalties to win it. There's all sorts of things in there that we can use to fuel the team. Nick Pope being missing, let's win it for him. You know, we've got used to, and again, this is part of the Stockholm syndrome. We've got used to thinking that good things don't happen to us. And yet what you've got to do is look at every time people tell us we can't do something, we've actually really done it. Going back to 92, but 91, 92, when Keegan came in as manager, everybody said we were dead and buried, we're going down to the third tier of football. You can't do it. We did. Look at when Eddie Howe came in. You're going to be the richest club in the championship. You'll never recover from that. We did. We've actually got a history of turning around to people and saying, you tell us we cannot do that, we're going to do it. And so we've got to take, there's so much in this that we can take as a club and as a fan base and as a unit in unity to go forward next week. And we've got naught to lose and everything to gain, and we'll only do it united, and that's when we do everything better. I think I'd ask everybody this week to stop the ticket talk now. Let's concentrate on getting behind everybody in the whole way we can, because we've got an opportunity here to let us circle the wagons. And by God, we are great when we're united and our backs against the wall. And our backs are against the wall. So sod it. Let's get the guns out and rally the wagons round and go for it over the next week.
Yeah, good rallying cry, Stu, from Mitch there.
Yeah, it's similar to what I said earlier, but my biggest worry of today is the fact that George has mentioned on several shows that how handsome he thinks Karius is, and now he's admitting to dreaming about him. You know, because next week is a big. By this time next week, we've won the cup. That's the one way. That's the way I look at it. So, can anyone else hear that? Or
yes,
yeah.
Right, okay.
There was car horn, mate, down at the Wales Club.
It's a big game next week. It's a big stage, and it's set for someone to be written into Geordie folklore in it. And why can't it be Karius? Me and Mitch were fortunate enough to watch him play in Riyadh in December. Yeah. And although you say it's a friendly and everything else, he was composed. The defence looked comfortable with him. His catching was great. His positional sense was good. So we shouldn't put so much pressure on him, you know, because of his last performance in the final. But at the same time, we can't just blame one performance. He was good enough to be in that final. So I've got no worries about Karius doing it. And as we're talking about, that siege mentality, let's do it for Porty. And I'm sure that'll be going around the training ground all week. You know, they'll all be wanting to do it. And our ringmasters back in the middle of the field also next week. That will again boost people around him. As I touched on earlier, St. Maximin seems to be coming into form, and if he fancies it next week, then we've got every chance. And I see a few people calling about Rashford. Yeah, he's in fantastic form, but that has to end sooner or later. And they're talking about, we're worried about his pace. Well, they should be worried about our pace, because Isaac's no slouch and ASM's no slouch and Miggy's no slouch. So if they're attacking, we can hit them on the break just like Liverpool did to us yesterday. So it's a different game, different scenario, and hopefully for us it'll be a different result. But it shows, you know, we're the way it's only our second loss of the season. Imagine that, man. But also,
yeah,
how it's been celebrated by Liverpool has been called their biggest result of the season. How mad is that? You know, even if you look at the last 5, 10, 15 years, Liverpool's biggest result of the season is getting a win against 10-man Newcastle. That's how far we've come in such a short space of time. And that's where you get the pride from. And that's where you get the hope from and the belief from. That at least if we're going to lose a game, which we will eventually, you know, you can't stay unbeaten forever. I'd rather it have been yesterday than next week. That's for certain. You know, and had we scraped a draw yesterday with 11 men and put an underwhelming performance in, that might have put even more mental pressure on the players going into next week. Now, to me, that weight's off. And as I've just said earlier, I think we'll go there thinking, right, we've got nothing to lose here. We've got everything to gain. And I think they'll be fresh. And they certainly should be fresher than Man United, who have played 2 games in the time that since we played last night. And there's no reason why we can't win this. But the one positive I took from yesterday's result personally was I had a big dilemma because all season I've wore the blue away top, and only one game I wore the black and white strip, and that was the first game against Liverpool. So last night I wore the blue one, we got beat, so it's not lucky anymore. So the Heat, I know you're watching, the top that you bought us to wear for Wembley, I'll be able to wear it now. Because everyone's wearing black and white, I thought I was going to have to wear the blue one because I didn't win. But now they've lost with the blue top on, so I can wear the one that we did in the show, Steve, the favourite strips. It was 98, the Blue Star one. You picked the grey one, the away strip. It's the home onto that. I'll be wearing that next week.
George, what did you think of the starting lineup? I mean, I've got to be honest, I didn't think for 1 minute he was going to start Anderson. Like, it was a shock to me. I was pleased. I was pleased he did, but it was a shock. And he didn't really get a chance to stamp his authority with a sending off because he was the man who was sacrificed. But I mean, did Eddie Howe get it right yesterday?
If we're believing my manager, we've got to say he got it right, in my view. It's as straightforward as that. And yet, I was advocating Anthony Gordon to be in the starting lineup all week last week for a variety of reasons. But I wasn't disappointed when I seen Elliot Anderson there. And like Neil says, sooner or later, if this lad's good enough, he's got to be in the team. And what that would do for him yesterday, seeing his name on the starting lineup, not just for that game, but for future games if he's involved as well, it's going to do him an enormous amount of good. And of course, I would say that, wouldn't I? Somebody who's actually bust a gut to try and be where Elliot Anderson is, albeit a long, long time ago. But the feeling when something like that happens, I think I've told you lads before, the closest I got to first team was to be allowed to go on the reserve team bus to Stoke. We family at home, you'd think that I'd been won the bloody pools, and I was only on the bus. I wasn't even in the team. You know, they were telling the whole of Howden that, hey, you seen the kids on the bus to Stoke? Well, I was only on the bus. I wasn't actually playing. So you can imagine what Elliot Anderson's family must feel like and what he must feel like. So Neil's absolutely right. If he's part of the squad, if we're really serious about young people getting in, then he's got to get his chance. And I was, that side of me says I was pleased that Elliot Anderson was in the team, Steve. So no, I didn't think he got it wrong. He got it different to what I was calling, particularly about Anthony Gordon. But I wouldn't say that was wrong. That's what he saw as being the team. And for the short while he was on, the kid didn't put a foot wrong. I couldn't see. I mean, I watched it from here through my sort of half-eyed look, but he didn't look to me as though he put a foot wrong while he was on. And I look forward to him starting other matches as well. And I look forward to him being on the bench next week. So no, Elliot Anderson didn't do anything wrong to my mind to be saying, well, he shouldn't have been there. He didn't put a foot wrong, and if he's going to be any good, he's got to be given a chance. As to the rest of it, well, I think we've already gone over it. You know, the things that happened, the things that didn't happen. But Liverpool got it right, we got it wrong. First 20 minutes, it's as simple as that for me. And we'll put it right in the second half. They would go home. In fact, Klopp admitted as much after the match that he was worried about us winning free headers from dead balls. We were given too many dead balls away, he said. And we were marmalising them for the first time. We actually saw like Dan Burn and Botman, etc., really troubling in defence, and that could have been a result for us. So no, I was happy about Anderson being there as a local lad who's been there, done there, and tried as hard to do it. And the boost that'll give him and his family is you can't measure it. And the other kids he plays with, by the way.
I guess, Mitch, what we need to really look at here in a cold like today is that if we've got any chance of winning a cup final next week, we need to start putting the ball in the back of the net.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. And The half chances that we were taking earlier in the season were not at the moment. But we said this for the last few weeks, that's got to change at some stage. It's bound to change at some stage. I thought Isaac, ASM, Mickey, Longstaff and Joe Linton at one point yesterday looked so on form, and Liverpool were terrified for about 20 minutes, but they were right on the back foot, and they had managed to sneak one. There's a damn good chance we could have got a draw out of that, which is just ludicrous, really. That's how good the 10 men were in the second half. Is it a confidence thing? Don't know. Is it a case of, well, actually, you know what it is? I'd be more upset if we weren't getting the chances. That's more of a problem to me. I've said this for a long time. Whenever people used to criticise Andy Cole, you had 3 chances to score a goal. But he got the chances. I've said this for a long time. Whenever people used to criticise Andy Cole, you had 3 chances to score a goal. Are you seeing the feedback from me at the minute? Or not?
I did.
That was a bit weird. So I'd be more upset if we weren't getting the chances than we are, and that's got to change. There's no two way about it for me. So let's start with it next week.
Yeah, from your perspective, Stu, goals win games, and Newcastle just don't score enough, and keep pointing out, especially set pieces. We're just not giving ourselves, any chance at all.
Yeah.
Corners are too close to the goalkeeper. I keep saying this phrase, tins of milk, because that's what we're big defenders, just stand there like tins of milk. There was a couple of opportunities. I think it was Dan Burn hit the ball with a header. Was good to see, slightly different, but we've got to start capitalising on these chances, haven't we? Otherwise, we're going to lose the cup final, and we're going to start slipping down the league.
Well, I agree with you, Steve, because I was watching yesterday specifically from the set pieces, because the height that we've got and the amount of corners that we get, we should be getting more goals, or at least creating more chances. But for the first few corners that we had, you said Byrne was standing under the bar, Botman was there, Shaw was there, Isaac standing there, and you're thinking these players should be out past the penalty spot, charging in and running it. How can you jump from it, get power on the ball that's dropping you when you're standing still? They should be coming in and attacking the ball. And then they seem to mix it up after they're sending off. And that's when Byrne had the header. He couldn't run onto it. He wasn't just standing and let the ball hit him. You've got to be able to, you've got to get your napper on the ball with a bit of power, haven't you? And you can't do that standing still. So they need to mix it up a bit and have other people, if they're going to have people just block the keeper and stuff like that, have like the size of Mickey not doing that there. And have the Burns and Botmans come charging in, because that would put the defenders off anyway. And if they've got a bit of wind behind them and they've got the momentum, then they're going to win the header more often than not anyway. So I'm hoping that they'll be working on that this week, because set pieces is a great opportunity for us to get some goals next week as well. If the balance of play will go as I expected, where we'll be doing more defending than attacking, and it's important when we do get these chances that they've worked on something, and I'm pretty sure they will be doing that this week. But this is why I was saying, coupled with that, then this is why I believe with the pace we'll have on the attack, then I'm still confident. Just answering about Elliot Anderson before, Steve, because I changed what you asked us. I wouldn't have played him. I didn't expect to play. I thought Gordon would have played, just to even give fresh legs and with his energy. But I was made up that Elliot Anderson got a game, and it was sad that he come off, but he was the obvious choice. But although he's a young kid, he took it well. He's old enough, if that makes sense. He's a mature young lad, and he understood the reasons behind it. And I'm sure he'll get more opportunities. And I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a run out next week. Now, whether he starts or not, I don't know. But I'd be surprised if he doesn't get a run out at some stage next week. And that'll be his reward. A local lad running on the pitch, playing for Newcastle at Wembley. So, yeah, I agree with you, Steve. I wouldn't have started him. I didn't expect to start the line. But taking on board what George said, then, he's going to be bursting with pride that he made his full home debut against Liverpool at St. James's in front of his family. that's just every boy's dream, isn't it? Who supports Newcastle.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, like Jacob Murphy could have started. I've seen a comment there by a couple of people about Murphy potentially could have started. He might feel a little bit aggrieved that he didn't get the opportunity. Did well when he came on though, so we'll wait and see. But I think we all know that Bruno will be back in the middle next weekend. But yeah, goals, George. Before I come to the ads, goals win games. We don't score enough, and the set pieces is disappointing. So I think Eddie Howe knows what he's got to do this week, which is plenty target practice. And I've been watching the top teams again today, the teams around us. Your Spurs, your Manchester Uniteds. I watched Manchester City yesterday. I watched Arsenal, and they all score goals. They all score good goals. But you know what they do? They do what Supermark told you to do. Shoot on sight. Never be afraid. Never be afraid to miss, George. And that's the kind of mentality I think not just our forwards but our midfield players need to have in them. You get near the 18-yard line. Have a dig, lads. Stop trying to walk the ball into the net.
Yeah, and for me the biggest culprit of that at the minute is Callum Wilson. Yesterday, twice took an extra touch where, before the break, he would have just wellied it. He wouldn't took that extra touch. The one that the goalkeeper kicked with his foot, just saved it with his foot. He just got too close to the goalkeeper. Before the break, he would have wellied that from another 5 yards out and put it in the top corner. He wouldn't have waited to give the goalkeeper that chance. So, yeah, there's lots of things that and other opportunities other people had. The set piece thing is an interesting one. I get very frustrated with what dead ball choices, particularly from corners. We're very predictable at the moment. You know exactly what's going to happen, and I'd like to see we're mixing that up quite a bit. Just to shake other people up, never mind us. Plus, I think was it Stu said the fact that. The big fellas are just standing there. Well, you said like tins of milk. I think that's absolutely right. Why aren't they coming onto the ball? Because they're coming on and they're all so hefty. Anybody that got in the way, they're just going to knock them out of the way, just to get at the ball. So, yeah, set pieces, we do really need to do some work. But also, we need to get our shooting boots on. And as you've heard me say, not on this programme, but other programmes as well, put your foot through it, man. I mean, the people that sit next to me at St. James's must get sick of hearing me shouting as Steve Hasty does next to us. Put your foot through it, man. And that's what we're missing. Absolutely. But Callum Wilson yesterday, for me, had at least two occasions when if he just shot a couple of paces sooner without getting too close to the defender or the goalkeeper, it would have flowed into the back of the net. And he would have done that just before the break, and it's just not happening now. So, get them G'd up and get some target practice in.
Yeah, Alan Thompson says, Stu, the only time I want to see Anderson running around Wembley is a final whistle when we've won the match. Alan, you're right on one the night, mate, aren't you? He's definitely upset. He still hasn't got over the defeat. He's as bad as I was after that Sheffield Wednesday exit in the FA Cup. Okay, halfway through the show, time for the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, starting with Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can order them from mrvickies.co.uk, email them at info@mrvickies.co.uk, or call them on 01768 210 102. Why not try some new beers at Blowhole Brewery? You can find them at blowholebrewery.co.uk. Thanks also to United Group Travel, UK coach holidays based in Morpeth. Telephone 01670 362 460 or mobile 07957 141 654. Graham, your driver, Beverly answering your calls and looking after you on your tour. Thanks also to 3 Properties. They specialise in sourcing investment properties for their clients who are looking to invest in the North East. They offer a full in-house service from sourcing the deals to managing the properties for you. They've done over 100 plus deals in the last 12 months for clients all over the UK. Give the guys a follow on Instagram, matty.patter_northeast property and phil.reed_northeast property, or email phil@3property.co.uk if you're interested in getting a good property deal. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, nufcmatters.com. Thanks to Media Arts for all the videos. If you want to subscribe to the channel, hit the subscribe button underneath this video today. Hit the thumb up to like the video and click share to your social media. If you're out and about, you can catch us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. If you want to join the channel, click join and you'll find out our membership packages down there. Very easy to do. Or if you want to become a cult member, £25 a month, go to nufcmatters.com and look for membership pack, or put your smartphone over the QR code and it will take you straight there. Anyone who subscribes to the channel will get a free car sticker. To get your car sticker, simply email john@nufcmatters.com. Got a few events coming up over the next few weeks. Steve Howie, Friday the 24th of February at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets available for £29 on voucher. An evening with Nobby Solano, Saturday the 25th of March. Tickets £15. Book at nufcmatters.com. Nobby Solano is also at Felling Cricket Club on Good Friday the 7th of April at 4 o'clock. Tickets are £10 and available behind the bar. And an evening with Frank Clark and John Gibson, Thursday the 20th of April. That's at the Tyneside Irish Centre. Tickets are £15. Book now at nufcmatters.com. We've also got a vast array of t-shirts available at the website. If you want your special Wembley t-shirt, you can go to nufcmatters.com and get one now while stocks last. And Ray Burrow says, is the weight of expectation weighing too heavily on the team's shoulders? Is that playing its part, Mitch?
I don't think so, because I don't think there's a weight of expectation. I think most people I know are happy to be where we're at. We know we're ahead of schedule. We've been told what the time frame was. We've been told what the limitations with FFP are. And people in the media are finally waking up and giving them the praise that we're actually due, including Klopp in his press conference before our game. You know, it's not just about money being spent. It's about Eddie Howe and the coaching and all of that. I genuinely don't personally perceive in this part of the world any kind of excess expectation other than we're enjoying my football again. And that we're looking forward to something that we really didn't think was going to happen for a couple of years. We've got a final in one of the three major competitions in English football. And if we can't enjoy it, then there's something wrong. And I genuinely don't feel like there's an expectation from anything other than we want them to go and express themselves and play as well as we can and do we're proud. That's it. And that's always what it was. So that's my personal take on it. Maybe my perception's different because of geography.
What's your view, Stu, on it? I mean, you know, a lot of people saying that, you know, the expectation levels at Newcastle. I mean, you hear former managers like Graham Souness saying that they're too heavy. It weighs on people, and you know,
Graham Souness is he's a revisionist historian, and he likes to paint a certain thing to make himself come out better. And the only thing that backs him up is dickheads like Dyer calling him gaffer on the telly when there was only one gaffer he should have looked up to, and that was Bobby Robson, and he didn't even have the decency to do that.
Yeah.
Ooh, sorry.
No, fair play. But yeah, I mean, it's this whole, you know, expectation that players seem to get when they come to Newcastle. Some players can buckle under the pressure. That's the point that was being made there. What's your view?
Yeah, I was expecting Mitch wearing his green top to rip it off there like the Incredible Hulk when he went on his run.
Don't make him angry. You won't like him when he's angry.
It's just because I've got my new trainers on at all matches.
I nobody criticised him wearing green, but did I not get you that for your birthday?
No, it's the other green one you got as well.
The green one. That's not so bad. So I thought, well, I can't criticise myself. I can't do that. Sorry, what was the question, Steve, about the weight of expectation?
Yeah.
I don't think there is, and perversely, I think yesterday's defeat might actually lift any weight off the shoulders that there was. If there's a weight of expectation, to me, it's on Man United. Their fans think they've already won it. The media think they've already won it. And
Yep.
we're going to make the numbers up, aren't we? And
Yep.
one thing's for certain, we'll win the battle off the pitch, as in on the terraces, singing and everything else. And you know, we're going there with not even a puncher's chance. We've got a realistic chance. We've got a coach who will study every single way to eke out a little bit extra or to find a gap in them. And we've lost one game in 17 or 18, because that was the 18th game. We've played them all, and only Liverpool have beat us. And so there should be no need for doom and gloom. And as I mentioned in the last round, was Bruno's going to be back, and irrespective, we're talking about putting weight on people's shoulders, he'll be bursting to make up for lost time, but he'll be fresh. And I can see him dictating the play and bringing people into the play, and just having that next to him having Bruno next to him will raise the other players, because he's never lost this season playing for us, has he? When he started, Bruno. And that was Botman's first loss for us yesterday as well. You can make the stats look whichever way you want, but we're not where we are by mistake. We've earned to be, yes, it's good evening from Europa League, but imagine that we're in 5th place. We've got a cup final. We've got so much to be happy about. And we've got a team that busts a gut for each other, for themselves, for us. And that's all we've ever asked for. But we're getting the sprinklings of the quality, and we can smell the success, and we've been that starved of it. And even today I was reading, it's a great opportunity for Man United to end their trophy drought. What is it, 4 or 5 years or something? Poor Benz. You know, imagine, let them lose their trophy, they can hang on a bit longer for the trophy drought, because we will win, and if we don't, then we don't. But I really think that Newcastle United will be lifting that trophy up next week. And weight of expectation, no. The one thing that may go against us is some may freeze on the big stage. They know how important it is, because there's such a unity now between the club and the fans, which hasn't been there for a long time. They know how much it means to everyone. They see people waiting outside the training ground. They meet people when they're out and about. They know that this means the world to Tyneside and beyond. So hopefully they go there, yes, wanting to perform, but not thinking about why they're doing it. If they go out there and play their best game, we've got more than enough to win next week. So I'm not sure about a way of expectation, because I think most of them will go there to enjoy it, and hopefully they relish the occasion rather than freeze on it.
Is there a weird expectation
Steve,
at the club? Go on, Mitch.
Sorry to interrupt. Stu, want to take you back to a WhatsApp conversation you and I had a couple of weeks ago, and you told me you were going to give me the mother of all I told you so's at Wembley. Yep. Please make sure you remember that, mate.
Absolutely, I will.
He has a good stat, actually. Ian says Les Seeley made his debut for Man U in the 1992 League Cup final, beating Forest 1-0. There's an omen there, lads.
There you go.
It is a good omen. And yeah, you talk about stars aligning. Of course, you know, Karius is best known for that last game he played in the Champions League final where he dropped the clanger. Maybe George's dream's going to come true. But yeah, George, is there a weight of expectation on Newcastle players, and is it having an effect? Somebody else mentioned in the chat there about the high press. You know, where it's been difficult. You know, pushing on the high press. I think it's something simple. Our best players, Bruno, he's been suspended for 3 games. Yeah,
and the one thing we know about the high press is we're fit enough to do it. If this had been 2 years ago with the Dinosaurs were manager, we wouldn't have got through half a game doing that with him, because we didn't have the fitness levels. We now have the fitness levels. What we've got to take with it is the confidence levels as well, and they get plenty practice of playing before a Raji crowd. 52,000 at St James's on a Saturday is making as much noise as they're going to hear at Wembley on next week. in the cup final. So I'd be disappointed if people freeze after that, because they should have had lots of practice of doing that. If I had one thing I would do for them before the match next Saturday, there was a video on Twitter from Preston Grange First School at North Shields the other day. The whole school had learned Bladen Races.
Yeah.
And the whole school sang Bladen Races from start to finish.
Brilliant, wasn't it?
All 9 verses. And I thought, well, if that doesn't tell them what it means to people up here, nothing else will. I mean, those kids sang their guts out and sang every verse. Absolutely fantastic. It took me back to my early days in the Department of Naval Architecture when Professor Burrell was head of department. And his Christmas party piece was he used to play the piano and sing all 9 verses of the Bladen Races. And you used to have to join in. There was no choice. If he caught you your mouth not going, you were in trouble. And Willie Muckle, the other professor in the department, used to play the violin. And can you imagine Bladen Races on piano and violin and some hopeless singers? But it meant a lot, and this means a lot. And that video shows not just what it means to them kids, but to their teachers and to that whole area of Tyneside. If that can't get you up and playing, then nothing will. So I don't think it's expectations. People are at last, I hope, or the majority, enjoying what we've been asking for months, for years. Try, do your best, and see what comes out. And what's come out this year is generally pretty positive. So I don't think there's too much expectation. All we want them to do next Saturday is to turn up and do their best.
Yeah. Okay, time for one of these.
Next
Talk. Class act, buddy.
Yep, got another one. Here he is. I'm sure that's superimposed. Like
It is.
you're not supposed to send in superimposed ones, but I'll let it go because we haven't had Wolves yet. Thanks, Jake, for that.
No, his arms aren't thick enough on that one.
Excellent. It's certainly creating a bit of a stir anyway. Mike Tyson in soccer tops. If you've got one, send it in and we'll get it on. And there is a noise. Yes, it does sound like a lot of farting, a lot of people getting a lot of amusement. It's definitely not me.
Like it's that way.
I always look at Mitch when these things happen.
I know.
Now try not to laugh. He tries to make me laugh on this show occasionally, like so.
Silent but deadly.
Well, maybe it certainly wasn't silent, George. Maybe it was his shirt ripping because of the green colour.
Absolutely right.
Got to cover this because I got sent this on social media, and somebody's asking about the decisions. Of course, I mean we've spoken about officials. The Bruno tackle, of course, which led to the 3 game suspension, and then this one today by a Manchester United player. And then offsides, Anfield, of course, against Liverpool, and the goal that was disallowed. And then Rashford's goal today. So basically, just people want to know what you thought of that. Sean says, question, lads, did you see Sabitzer's tackle today? Can you please explain to me why VAR didn't look at it? Wasn't too dissimilar to our Bruno's versus Southampton. Very frustrating. Kenny says the pundit said that the tackle today wasn't given as a red, so there was no reason for VAR to intervene. Bruno's tackle was also not red, but VAR was straight in the referee's ear. So it's just inconsistencies, Mitch. I think that's, again, you know, we're worried about goalkeeper next week, but we're probably more worried about VAR.
What was said all season about VAR, it's not the technology, it's the absolute fuckwits who are operating it. And there's a lack of consistency, not just in the application of it and how it is applied and how VAR comes forward the referee to intervene, but there's an absolute lack of consistency in the rules. I'm sorry, if you look at those 2 still images of those 2 tackles, the one at the knee is horrendous. by is it Sabitzer, the Man U midfielder?
Yeah.
That's a red all day long. And as for VAR and the drawing the lines and come on, we got the pathetic excuse that it was because of the shadows. You know, well, what's that one today about? Is that because of the Beatles? You know, I just don't get it. I don't get how we can be so absolutely consistently inconsistent, and yet every other FA around Europe seems to have a better sort of take on how VAR works than us. It's the one concern I've got for next week. It's not that the referee's a Man United fan or all that bollocks. A, he's crap. B, VAR's absolutely inconsistent. And C, at the moment, VAR seems to be giving decisions that do go in favour of certain clubs. Man United are getting far more than what you'd say is a fair share of the deal here. They're being given dispensation to effectively do what the hell they like with stuff like that. With that tackle. If that's not a red, then we might as well stop using VAR altogether.
Yeah, I mean, that again just shows the complete inconsistency, doesn't it, really, Stu, those pictures today?
Well, it's the opposite. I think it shows the consistency of how inconsistent they are. But you know, we can cry about it, but it's not even. If you look before VAR, the Liverpools and Man Uniteds of this world before VAR come in, got loads of decisions. We all know that's a penalty because it's at Old Trafford. That's a penalty because it's at Anfield. So we end up with the same outcome. It's just a different way of getting there. And the VAR was brought in to stop this, and it hasn't. If anything, it's given them a license to encourage it when they're drawing lines, or they can't see lines when it's Newcastle attacking at Anfield, or when it's Rashford, they draw a line that's not straight to enable the favoured ones to get the right decision. It's not new. It's went on for decades, and I'm sure George will vouch for that. There's always been the case. Same used to be at Highbury as well. They used to get plenty of decisions in their favour. There's one thing I want to change the subject about. Was yesterday when I was watching the game, and then I was looking at the comments on Twitter afterwards, and then it carried on again today. People slagging the Liverpool fans off. Well, this is, to me, has been brought up by someone in the press who I won't even mention, trying to create a rivalry, like a hatred between Newcastle and Liverpool. And as far as I can remember, there's always been respect between the two sets of fans. There's a hard-working background between them. There's a good sense of humour. And when there was a minute's applause for Atsu, they were singing "You'll Never Walk Alone." And I thought, what a lovely touch that is. You know, that was, to me, showing unity across football. Was the winner, and football was supporting the sad death. And then people took it the wrong way and saying that they were being disrespectful. But perhaps they were. My opinion was the polar opposite. I thought they were showing great support, just as we've done when we've sang Justice for the 96. I know it's 97 now, but when we were singing Justice for the 96, you know, there's a bond there, and it goes a lot further than someone penning articles for clickbait. You know, you start looking at some of the Liverpool managers have come from the northeast in the past. Then you've got the Keegans, the McDermotts, the Beardsleys, John Barnes, there's Ian Rich. There's so many, Dalglish even. There's so many things that link Liverpool and Newcastle. And the football games that have been on, there still hasn't been a greater game in the Premier League than our 4-3 defeat there in the 95-96 season. And for someone to try and cause trouble, you know, that's stirring up. That could have caused trouble yesterday, you know, and there's no need for that just for clickbait. So I just wanted to get that off my chest. I thought Liverpool fans were very respectful yesterday. I thought it was a good touch of them to do that. But however, I'm sitting watching on the TV in Bahrain. I wasn't in the stadium. So for those who were there, if you can tell me I'm wrong, then I'll put my hands up and say I'm wrong. But that's the way I understood it. I thought they were doing it as a show of unity and support.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And there was still a minority of our fans singing that ridiculous sign-on song. It has to be said as well. The guy I saw singing it was old enough to know that he shouldn't be singing it. It was just pathetic. It makes our fans look pathetic. I'm just not a fan of that song at all. Like ridiculous. It just makes us look stupid. But never mind. For me, they were certainly doing it out of respect. Mitch is going to have to go. Joking aside, he wasn't sitting on a fart cushion. It's actually his headphones. The reception that he had was creating that problem. And where he obviously lives, sometimes he has a terrible internet connection. So that was what it was down to. I mean, George. Look, we'll finish up. We've got 5 minutes left, and we're going to have another 2 shows to go before the final. So just want to talk about one of the comments that I saw in the chat, which was a question for you, actually. Evening, lads. Question for George. Did you ever use the swimming pool that was under the kit room floor? And when was it closed off and used to water the pitch? I don't know what on earth that is, George.
Not while I was there. Sorry.
All right.
Sorry. Yeah. I mean, no, not in St James's Park. The kit room was a boiler room. There wasn't a swimming pool. There was a laundry there. There was a great big boiler where the women used to wash and iron the strips. But there was an area where in the boiler room where the lads used to clean the boots, and sometimes if you were lucky, you'd get some of the top players coming into that area and talking about football while you were there, and even the big ones like Jackie Milburn and Joe Harvey, George Hanna, Charlie Crow, if they were in, they would include you in the conversation. They'd say, "What do you think, kid?" or that sort of thing, and join in. So it was always a thrill to be in there cleaning boots if they were around. But I've never seen any swimming pool. There was a big bath in the home dressing room that everybody used to have to pile into, which was sometimes a source of great merriment to the people that were in it. And some of the Gaza stories about that bath when he was younger were quite saucy. But no, I've never seen a swimming pool. No.
Okay, last question for the two of you. Stu, I'll start with you. Mark Ritchie says, I think Isak needs to play with Wilson, but it means dropping Miggy or Maxi. Probably not going to happen, but Isak would definitely benefit with Wilson alongside him. I've got to be honest, I would agree. I don't think he will do it for the final, but is it worth looking at for maybe the last 15 games of the season?
I think it will be looked at some stage before the season's out. But I think next week he's going to go the tried and tested methods. It's maybe just too much to change the system that it's been tried and tested and overall been successful. I was thinking today, like, do you start Isak or do you start Wilson? Because I mentioned last week that Wilson, if he was fit, would start and run the legs off the centre halves for then Isak to come on with his pace and his trickery to hopefully finish them off. But then I started thinking, what happens if the game's tight and it goes to extra time and penalties? Wilson's not going to last 120 minutes and we need penalty takers on. So then does that go through the mind and you start Isak because he's Isak and then bring Wilson on later on? It depends on the mindset, are we going there to win it or we're going there not to lose it initially? Because we could go too gung-ho and be caught out with it, or we could be too cautious and get caught out with it. So we'll have to get the balance right. Personally, I think he should start his best 11 in the right formation. And I think Isak deserves to start over Wilson at the moment. He looks fitter than what Wilson's looked recently. And I'm a huge fan of Callum Wilson. But for that, I hope that Wilson does get on and scores, albeit whether it be a penalty in penalties or a goal in normal time. And yes, I'll be at the Globe before the game.
George, would you go with the two?
No, not at the moment. Not for the cup final. That's not when to start experimenting. Yes, for the rest of the season, it may be worth a try. I mean, you put your finger on it, Steve, yourself. We've got to start scoring goals. And if there's a way of starting scoring goals by having the two of them on together, then we've got to try it. There's no doubt that Isak's pace is electric and worries defenders. No doubt about that. So yeah, let's see if we can weld the two together somehow. But in the cup final's not the time to do it. I don't think. I think it's got to be what the manager knows and what we know to start that game and get the best out of the 11 that's on the pitch with Bruno on. But yes, I'd like to see the experiment tried, but when they've had time to try it on the training ground, but Wembley's not the place to start it.
No, I definitely don't think Wembley's the place to start at all. Last thing from Barry Hogan, he says, I see one of the gossip columns is mentioning Tierney, as Stu mentioned, for a new left back. Stu, what's his injury record like? The Arsenal fans seem to say that he's always injured, but yes, that's another tick in the box for you, Stu.
Yeah, he has been injured and he is quite injury prone, but when he's not injured and he's playing, to me, he would fit our system perfectly, and I've been a big advocate of him, Maddison, for at least the last 12 months. And I'm still confident we'll sign James Maddison, but I would love us to get Tierney as the left back. He offers something different, and he, as I mentioned last week, he gives the balance that Kieran Trippier gives on the right. You've got a marauding wing back who can defend and can cross the ball as well. And I also said that when Scotland play, he plays the left back role instead of Robertson, to push Robertson further forward. He's a better defender than Robertson. To me, he's a better crosser the ball. He's a better player. So hopefully we do get him. To me, that's just pushing, increasing the squad in the right area, and it gives us more strength. We'll have a quality player like him in the team, and it's no detriment to Dan Burn, who's been outstanding for most of this season. He's had a couple of bad games, but most of the players have as well. But to me, Thierry would be the ideal choice. So if he's getting linked with us, which I've seen a couple of times today, then they can all watch NUFC Matters and see who'll get linked with next, can't they?
Exactly. 25 away from 50k, folks. So if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. It's free. We do 7 shows a week. Don't forget as well, you can also follow us NUFC Matters on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you want to make a donation, then click the $sign below. I am back tomorrow night, 6 o'clock. With the fans forum, a whole host of Newcastle fans on, giving their opinions on the weekend's events, and of course looking ahead to the cup final. But for now, it's thanks from Neil, thanks from George, thanks from Stu, and thanks from me. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening.
Take
care. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.
Cheers.